Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, February 25th. Okay, so first things first, the chat wasn't working on screen for some reason. Maybe it hasn't worked for a very long time. And with the way chat has been updated with YouTube, the square over here on the left that was black doesn't really need to exist anymore. So instead of spending effort trying to get it to work again, I've instead put a blocking screenshot that probably won't work after the screen to block this part if anybody tried to friend me on Hearthstone, and frankly I'm probably going to turn that off. I've also this means I've also disabled the idle screen as it is, and we'll try something different. Apologies to anybody who felt like that was a cool way to integrate chat directly into the videos, but YouTube does that now. So like when I first had chat on the screen, it didn't do that. Hearthstone wise, we've got 3 daily quests to do. We've got a lot of news to deal with. And we've got 3 different victories that are overlapping. I guess we're going to be playing Priest today. There's some other things. We're starting a little late because I was about to stream and I just was not feeling it. I guess I'm still trying to catch up on sleep or something, so I took an hour power nap before this, so hopefully I won't be dragging energy wise. Yeah, and we can see, well, the screenshot looked really good for that one screen. It only works well for that one screen. So yeah, there's no reason to use that, so we won't be using the blocker. Let's see, just turn that off. I'm not sure there's really a way to have that work automatically like that. I could certainly make it slightly smaller. In the end, I'm just gonna defriend anybody that talks to me. The rules will just be a lot stricter these days. If somebody friends me on YouTube and that's fine, but then they start chatting to me, which we haven't even had that as a problem for a long time.
Job's done.
I'll just immediately unfriend them. It's still better in this new world of YouTube in which YouTube is going and Google is going to say I'm responsible for what other people type in my chat. It's still better to have some random person friend me on Hearthstone and put something offensive on it than to have all chat happen. And let's face it, I wouldn't be surprised if Battle.net's chat spam sensors and filters are better than Google's are. There's a decent amount of news. I didn't finish scheduling all the videos I should have, but at least I had a valid reason this time. I ran into the May time frame. May the 4th be with you being the part around the year when I record videos about the Star Wars games, the old Star Wars games. This very possibly will be the last year, but I'm going through the Jedi Knight series of games and doing little spotlights. There's still a decent chance that I won't play any of the remaining Star Wars games, so I'm just gonna make a bunch of spotlights and go, alright, well, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Knight 1, or Dark Forces 2, it was originally Star Wars Dark Forces, then it was the Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. So Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 is somewhat playable as an old game, but it all really kind of comes down to, do you have nostalgia? The problem with Dark Forces 1 is that first level, which is the only level I looked at, was about a third as long as the first level of Doom, and it really was just a Doom clone, whereas Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 gave me, as the first level, an incredibly big, wide, vertically tall level. There's just a lot going on for one level, and it took me at least 45 minutes to beat the first level on 3 different tries. And it was just because I was losing life quite a bit, even though I was playing on easy, easiest setting possible, and I didn't have a clue where I'm supposed to go. I don't know how much playability there really is after you know where you're going, because that's really where it's gonna fall apart. Is do you have a clue where the exit is in it? So yeah, I'm gonna play all the Star Wars games, get them uploaded, get them recorded, and then I have probably a month of footage to put after the Star Wars May episodes. And you know, it's starting to feel like if I keep momentum, I may actually make it all the way to 12 months plus ahead, which would be nice. 2020 might be a better year for YouTubers. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see what happens there. We have Martin on the chat saying hi. Hi, Martin. I'm still looking at the chat on my phone, so I still see it, even if it's not going to play on the screen anymore. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that part. Yeah, that didn't work at all. I should have just played these two because I need to play priest cards. Now, over the weekend, there wasn't too much breaking news. In fact, there was kind of a lot of fake news, and I don't use that phrase well, and maybe I shouldn't use it at all. Maybe it would be better to say there was a lot of people who tried to cause controversy for nefarious reasons. For instance, the whole reason the chat and the whole chat is gone and all of that is, and the whole uproar on YouTube about people putting lewd and disgusting comments on the chats of videos. That whole video that kicked that off was made by a failed YouTuber, which is a fair description in my opinion, and I would hold myself also in that category as a failed YouTuber who was very quickly revealed to have been trying to encourage people to get to complain to advertisers to pull their advertising right now and just cause another adpocalypse. Now, what I said before is still not wrong. YouTube should have seen this coming. Like, every year there is going to be somebody with an axe to grind that's going to come around. And it's not going to be even an annual thing. It's going to be all the time. There's always going to be somebody with an axe to grind trying to cause another adpocalypse on YouTube. the advertisers themselves would love to cause an adpocalypse so they can pull out and try and negotiate more favorable terms. Every news reporting agency is a direct competitor to YouTube, so they are more than happy to promote and propagate it without there really having to be any kind of collusion whatsoever. Martin asks, are you really rank 19? Yeah, that's the amount of effort I put into it because I play on 3 different accounts and I'm usually not paying attention to what I'm doing. I'm still very confused as to, without spending extra effort trying to figure out how this works, I'm confused how pedophiles or alleged pedophiles or just trolls are going on to YouTube videos that should be unlisted or private anyways, and that's a big part here, is that there are parents putting up videos of their little kids when I think maybe YouTube would be best just to say no kids on YouTube at all. Like no kids, no videos with kids in it on YouTube. But even if they're going on there and they're putting eggplant squirt timestamp, disgusting speech still in my mind falls under free speech. I don't see how that goes any further, though. Is it that somebody makes a account, puts that comment, and then you click on that person's account, and then you look at their YouTube page, and then their YouTube page has offensive videos? I don't get it. If they're putting links to anything, then they're getting around the spam filter pretty quickly. I don't think you're supposed to be able to put any kind of links really in comments on YouTube videos. So I don't know how it goes any further there, unless they've created a highly complicated encoding system or getting around spam filters. I don't understand how it rises from a level of just disgusting speech into being a level of either soliciting child pornography or producing or promoting the distribution of child pornography. Like, I don't think it, I kind of don't think it exists. I think there's a much ado about, nothing but much ado about just lewd words. Like, if I was in a bathroom stall in just a gas station somewhere, and some troll, some jerk wrote on the bathroom stall, I like children. It's disgusting, but I mean, it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't do anything. If he puts, I like children, call me, here's my phone number, then it's probably not really his phone number, and like that, usually if anybody writes a phone number on a bathroom stall, it's somebody that dumped him or that they hate. If they wrote a website address, I guess that would make sense. Let's see, Martin asks, why do you only have 321 subs? You must have about 20,000 XD, about XD OMG. Yeah, I wish I knew the answer to that, why I only have 321. The only answer I can give is YouTube does not promote small-time creators at all. They just don't promote my videos. Now, I'm a video game critic. I'm making, in YouTube's own mind, I'm sure the exact same type of video as every little kid who plays Fortnite. Or maybe in my early years I got on some part of the YouTube algorithm where they just labeled me as garbage content. The one thing I could say as my understanding of the algorithm, and comparing myself to other big time video game YouTubers and YouTubers in general, they don't like it when you are uploading 2, 3, 4, 5 things. There's a long time where I had like 5 separate series of 5 separate games, which yeah, some people might not like one game, they might like it. I was very much run my channel like a TV channel, where in prime time you might have a 30-minute show and then another 30-minute show. One might be a comedy, one might be a drama. So I was putting out a lot of content, and I still want to put out a lot of content. I can't see how I could shift my channel to not put out a lot of content, short of if I had, say, you need 1,000 to monetize a channel nowadays. But so if I had like 10,000, 20,000 people, I might at some point consider moving it to separating my channel into 5 channels and asking people to subscribe to 5 different channels. But I don't see how that really changes anything, because it's all video games, and I don't stick to any video game besides Hearthstone for very long. So I don't see how pulling the usual YouTube trick of asking your 10,000 real fans to subscribe to 5 different channels so then you can claim you have 50,000 subscribers. But yeah, it's just all YouTube's fault. The only thing I did wrong is I didn't cheat. I didn't pay somebody to get me a bunch of subscriptions from the middle of China or Russia. And I've heard rumors that at least in the early days people got away with that, and that's how they got successful. Nowadays almost certainly it would get your channel banned, even if it wasn't you who did it. So yeah, I get this statement a lot, and all I can say is ask your friends to subscribe to my channel, and like ask them to make sure anybody that has a YouTube account subscribes to my channel. They really don't even have to watch any video ever. It'd be nice if they watch my videos and like my videos, but if I can just get a subscription and subscribers up to 1,000, I think that would put me, it would let me run ads again, so I could get a few pennies a week. I was making about 7 cents a week back before they changed the rules on how many subscribers you needed, because it used to be only 100. So I would be getting maybe 70 cents a week. 70 cents a week. That's a couple of really cheap Steam games. It doesn't pay bills or anything. But yeah, more subscribers, even if they don't watch, would be greatly appreciated. And I think about like other little kids who would think about starting a YouTube channel nowadays, and I'd just say forget it. There's no chance. I was very late to the party. My channel's about 5 years old, and it probably should be 10 years old. Frankly, like you would have to be the most popular kid in school, and you'd have to have a school of a couple thousand to convince all of your friends to subscribe to you on YouTube. And that's not even a smart move, because then it runs the danger of you getting doxxed, or your friends like releasing information, or just people that don't like you making fun of you, and you'd just be really it could be very emotionally disturbing to try to be a YouTuber when you're young. So maybe if you were the valedictorian at a college and you could handle people, a lot of people making fun of you, maybe then you might be able to start a YouTube channel and be successful. As for how people do become successful today, the sad truth is there's just a lot of secret money behind it too. Like, Geek and Sundry is a great example of this, where the YouTube channel Geek and Sundry came out and it was supposed to be, oh, it's Felicia Day and it's one other, the Nerdist guy, I forget his name. They've gotten together and they've decided to make a YouTube channel, and yeah, they're little rich California actors, but they're not super rich, and they're just getting their friends to make these relatively high quality videos. And then it turns out, no, it really wasn't them. It was Lionsgate Productions, a giant movie production company that was funding Geek and Sundry. And Felicia Day, last time I checked, has nothing to do with it, and the Nerdist guy really never had anything to do with it. But yeah, there's just a lot of production companies and rich parents that are funding the promotion and buying ads. I've never bought ads. That's another thing. It's like, sure, I could potentially buy ads for my YouTube channel, or at least on Facebook, that gets promoted quite a bit. But yeah, I try. I'm not going to spend money on something that probably wouldn't pay itself back. So it's just a series of unfortunate events, as it is. Let's see. Let's see, Martin said about the pedophile topic, there was one in our city, and me and some friends got care of him. These people are disgusting. Well, Martin, I hate to surprise you, but there's more than one in your city. I guarantee you, there are hundreds and hundreds of people on the sex offender registry list in almost any of the smallest of towns. A lot of those people on the list also don't really deserve to be considered pedophiles, though a lot of people get on that list because they get drunk and pee in a public park or something, or they were 19 who slept with a 17-year-old. So there's nuance in everything. There are kind of two categories there. There are the active people out there trolling to actually harm children, and then there's a lot of people who also get caught up in that description and that. And I will throw pedophiles a bone and say there are almost certainly people who have that tendency, proclivity, or urges, and have never actually acted on them, nor any intention to act on them, even as much as through fantasy or through talk. And so a lot of this would be helped in the United States with a little bit less stigmatization, so that they could feel free to talk to therapists about it, and not have the therapist just immediately call the cops on them and have them thrown in jail, or try to do that, or have the therapist round up a lynch mob and lynch them. Therapy would fix a lot of things in the United States. Moving on, Martin says, check out the channel The Clashers. It's the biggest one in Bulgaria, and that guy doesn't like the YouTube rules too. Well, that's pretty much everybody on YouTube. Is number one rule on YouTube is to poop all over YouTube because they make it so easy, and it's really the right thing to do. Like, YouTube's rules and the way they implement the rules and how they announce changes to the rules have always been horrible. It's always this nightmare scenario where it's like, why can't you just leave us alone? Why can't you just let us make money? That's all we really want to do. Why don't you just be the silent partner and run the background, and instead of putting your own ideas, politics, or just small changes in it. I got a survey just the other day asking me, when I was on my YouTube subscriptions, which of the following errors have you found on the subscriptions tab? And it's like, it lists things that might have happened on the subscription page, but it just popped up, and I had not complained about anything, and at the bottom it said none, and I'm like thinking to myself, I better click none, because this is clearly a survey they're trying to do because they want to yet again try to get rid of subscriptions, which is ridiculous because YouTube has been trying to get rid of the subscription page and letting people watch just the videos that they want to watch from people they want to watch videos from in a chronological order. They want to do a Facebook forced trending or what's new page instead, where YouTube decides what you can see and what you can't see, and it will just not suggest videos at all. They've been trying to do that for years, and nobody likes it. Like, sure, a significant amount of people don't subscribe and don't look at the subscriptions page, but the people that use it really like it and really use it. I use it. It's the only way you can possibly see all the videos that come out from a subscription thing. It's the same thing like having to subscribe and click the notification bell. Why does the end user have to click two buttons to indicate the same thing? And if they really want to get rid of subscriptions as a concept, then why are they then holding content creators to the standard of saying, I have to have 1,000 subscribers, when you don't even want people who are subscribed to me to be able to see my videos on a subscription page? Yeah. And I could go on and on. To be fair to YouTube, they're trying to get better. Some of their announcements have been phrased and thought through, and feels like they may actually have finally gotten a PR company in there to teach them how to deal with public relations. But there's a reason why the most hated YouTube video on YouTube is made by YouTube. Like, that goes to show just how little they understand their own community and their own product. And a big part of that certainly comes from the fact that YouTube was originally this small-time startup company with small-time startup content creators that got bought out by Google, and Google, I assume, caused a skill drain, a brain drain to happen in the employees, and now it's being run by people who don't understand anything. So yeah, one other thing YouTube has done recently is they've gotten rid of integration with Google Plus, which nobody cares about that, but in the process they also got rid of integration with Twitter and other social media services. So now there's really no way to make a custom message pop up when a video goes live on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. At best, I can use a third party if then that website plugin to just kind of automatically generate a generic notification. The only reason I use my Facebook or Twitter is to let people who are on Facebook or Twitter, instead of looking at YouTube all day, which maybe a lot of people do look at YouTube all day, but some people don't. So I want to make it as comfortable for my viewers to get notifications in whatever service they like. That's also the only reason I have like a Tumblr and a Google Plus account. I assume that's shut down now. So I need to adjust that at some point too. Or I'll just leave it, you know. Might as well just leave things the same way. So yeah, YouTube is actively making it harder to reach the audience that wants to see your content. Like, it could go on for hours. Martin says, I don't know what time it is in your country, but it's 2 a.m. here, so I'm exhausted. BB, which was probably bye, keep it up. Well, yeah, you're on the other side of the world. It's not even 4 p.m. in the United States Central Time. Yeah, and that's another thing with YouTube, is the reason I live stream Hearthstone, other than to just get the daily quests done with Hearthstone, is because only live streams get promoted and shown to anybody. So I get people actually seeing my videos and commenting on my videos when I live stream. If I put a scheduled pre-recorded footage, which is what I would much prefer to do, I'd like all my footage to be pre-recorded, and maybe even a little bit of polished and edited. That's an ambitious goal for a later date, but any of that pre-recorded stuff does not work. Meanwhile, there's not much of a competition. I could go to Twitch and try to make money on Twitch, but I've yet to see actual examples of normal people make money at Twitch either. I heard, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, that Ninja, who was the biggest Twitch streamer, his subscriber count went from like 230,000 on Twitch to like 20,000. So he had a big loss as Fortnite, I suppose, became less interesting. So yeah, it feels like there's probably only about maybe 30,000 people that make a living wage on YouTube, and there's probably only about maybe 300 people on Twitch that make a living, and I don't like those odds. The best way, I suppose, to make a living these days is I'm trying to push the Patreon, and I'm gonna think about doing some other things with the patrons at some point.
Light smiles upon the just.
I'm not gonna lie, there is a potential there. I really wouldn't want to lock content behind a Patreon wall, but that might really be what it comes down to. Is if I have enough subscribers for that to make sense, and if I have like 1,000 patrons, I might put out something, but I don't even know what it would, or maybe I could put out videos earlier.
Is someone injured?
Job's done.
But I don't know how any of that works. Frankly, it all just ends up meaning doing more work.
Is someone injured?
So right now my Patreon is mostly just, hey, this is a monthly way you can throw me $1, and that would be greatly appreciated.
Right away.
It cuts YouTube out of the loop. So while Patreon takes some percentage and some transaction fee, it's nowhere as big as what YouTube was taking, and at least it doesn't give money to YouTube. Of course, if everybody does that and YouTube fails miserably, then we've got nowhere to put our videos. So at some point, we're gonna have to find an alternative if that were to happen, but that's unlikely to happen.
You are the Shadow's puppet. Right away.
Let's see. Moving on, our first game for today that we have to look at is called Magic Gun. It's a stand in one place and shoot two guns VR game. Early access and $2.39 discounted. A very generic game. I did go through most of the games that we looked at that I had left over, because there was a ton of games left over on Friday, and we went for like 6 hours streaming, and at a certain point it was just like, I cannot go any further. This is getting ridiculously ridiculously long.
You are the Shadow's puppet. Right away.
So we may have a little bit that is left over at the end of today, but I want to get through most of the videos today, and the ones that get left behind are week-old games at this point. But I did a lot of filtering too. It's things that just weren't worthy of mention just got closed. Let's see. Let's hit that. Okay, so let's see if we can do this.
Right away.
And is there anything else we can do? Not really.
The hand is too full.
There we go.
Do my bidding.
In the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Speaky Gamebox, which looks like a RPG Maker game. Let's see. Yeah, is there anything here to say? No, not really. It's discounted to $1.79. We're still continuing to see a trend of slightly more expensive games than than they really deserve to be priced at. And what do we want to do?
Right away. Do my bidding.
Do that. Okay. Next we have a game on Steam called Kill Jump Monster. I hope the web peak is working today. It should. This is a terrible looking game. They can't even get it full screen to take the screenshots. It's looking at the video, it's just probably stolen artwork if I was to guess. That is a clicker as things are jumping up. English not supported, $19.99, and no surprise here, it is a cheap Chinese game. Of course, not cheap in the price, just cheap in quality. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to go through several Chinese games like that. Alright, here we go. Double that. Do that. And while we're at this, we'll just play some other priest cards. And take victory. We need to get 3 victories while we're playing the priest cards. That was the priest cards. I guess I don't need to get everything done today, but it might be smart to do it all today. We can now play as Paladin, so let's keep it interesting and move over to Shield Paladin. Next we have a game on Steam called Maze of Time, which is apparently another one of these games that is either really easy to do these days or just somehow became popular. I think there's probably a Unity asset that auto-generates 3D mazes. It's $1.59 discounted. Let's see what the languages are. Just English? Alright. Very low effort game, low quality game. Yeah, the only thing I could guess is that this is that they somehow figured out a way to make mazes. That being said, with the exception of a game called Mr. Maze, which I'm still not sure is actually a game worth playing, there really has never been an instance in the past 10 years where even a 3D AAA game wanted or was bettered by having a maze in it. Like, if you think about BioShock or Legend of Zelda or something like that, the last time there was a good maze in a video game, it was I would say
Speak your peace.
It would have been when the Resident Evil 4 came out, and that was like 15-20 years ago. Resident Evil 4 has a hedge maze, and you're fighting something. The Ghostbusters video game had a hedge maze in it too. But that's pretty much it. There aren't any other examples, and every other first-person shooter bends over backwards to try to make gameplay quick and snappy and easy to navigate. You're doing the exact opposite when you put a maze in a game. So it's just bad game design by modern standards. Next we have a game here that's just a bunch of Asian characters. I'm wondering if it's possible that this is all the same company that's putting out a lot of these. This game is 99 cents, English not supported, a simplified Chinese game. It looks like it is built on something like RPG Maker, but actually isn't even really an RPG. Seems like you just kind of go up and up and up on stairs. Just like really bad quality looking.
I fight.
Let's keep on playing.
The battle! The battle! The battle!
Got it down to 10. Let's see. Next we have a game from Big Fish. So Puppet Show Porcelain Smile Collector's Edition. This will be $12.99, a hidden object game. Big Fish Games was a website at some point, I don't know if it still is, that puts out these hidden object games, and then every week or so they release something that's a collector's edition. The quality of their games never look bad. It's just they're hidden object games, and you really shouldn't be playing $12.99 for a hidden object game. And if you're obsessed with hidden object games and you are paying $12.99 every other week, and you're paying a lot of money a year.
I fight.
There we go. Another victory, good. So that leaves us with just one victory. This next game is interesting. We have a game on Steam called Wrath of Thor. And this looks like this is a direct attempt to infringe on the copyright of the Marvel Odinson Thor creature, which you could get away with pretty easily because Thor, being a Nordic god from Nordic ancient religious beliefs, can't really be copyrighted in a lot of ways. Although I would say some of the appearances here might infringe. Marvel would kind of have to take it to court. Either that or this was a licensed game by Disney, and if it was a licensed game by Disney, then I don't see why they're not mentioning that. Why not put Marvel's Wrath of Thor? This is English simplified Chinese, so I heavily suspect that this is just copyright infringement. Yeah. $2.99 with no discount. Wrath of Thor won't make it to the follow list, though. China is going to get quite a smattering of my ire today, unfortunately, because we're going to have to talk about some news of other people spreading their dislike of China too. But I don't inherently comment on cheap Chinese, like copyright infringing and bad Chinese games because I hate China. It may sound like that. I'd love to see Chinese people, the people of China, make a good game. I just have major disagreements with how they run their country. The government runs their country, which is pretty much on the same levels as my feeling with a lot of countries.
Right away.
And I have major disagreements with bad quality games in general. I'm not even sure I'm that peeved with people stealing copyright, quite frankly. I'll let the corporations that own the copyrights of things fight that fight. I don't need the white knight and shield for a corporation. I'm here as a critic, trying to improve the landscape for the consumers, for people who buy the games, not people who develop the games. And what doesn't improve the landscape is a game like Colorvore, which is basically a fly around in black space eating colorful dots for no real reason. It's kind of a mix between Pac-Man and Asteroids. 99 cents, no discount. Another terrible game. So we're gonna end up going through a lot of these terrible games that came out today before we get around to the good games that I have in backlog. Next we have a game on Steam called World War II, the TCG, which would be... what does TCG stand for? It's a card game, I guess. This doesn't look bad, actually. It's got some nice graphics on the cards. The chances that this would be a successful collectible card game is low. You're also taking it into World War II. A lot of people don't want to play games around the idea of World War II. This game has in-app purchases, but it is free to play. And apparently it's at version 0.1.9. Visually it doesn't look bad, but let's face it, I would never decide to play that game. It's just not in my opinion, going to get enough of a fan base. It would be the equivalent if everybody started playing Battlefield and the World War II first-person shooters. So much so that there were no other first-person shooters ever made. Like, no Borderlands 3, which, because I like the Borderlands series. If they said, we're never making any first-person shooters that aren't set in World War II, I would just say, fine, then I'm not playing first-person shooters anymore. I would not bridge that gap and decide to meet them halfway.
Medicine incense.
Right away.
Game of Sutra has an article for us. Avalanche co-founder Christopher Sundberg is leaving the studio. This must be new. I think. Let's see. Sundberg led development of the original Just Cause as creative director. Actually, I may have talked about this last week. There's nothing really more to say here, as far as I can tell. So, like, yeah, he's leaving the studio. That's fine. It seems like he's leaving the studio after a significant length of time. So, it's not super surprising. Alright, we just need a Druid and Hunter victory, and then we'll move on to the next one. Spell Hunter? Let's stick with Spell Hunter because I think it will win more than Druid will. Like I would know, but whatever. Next we have a game on Steam called Homing Shapes, which looks bad. This is not an acceptable level of animation and quality. Seems like it's kind of a platformer shooter game. It's kind of unique in its gameplay style, but its presentation is just so bad. $2.99. I have no interest in it. Maybe you're supposed to avoid the particles that are coming towards you until you could maybe hit the gold and get a shot to shoot the items. That might be it. Let's move on. Next we have a game called Airshock. Let's see what this is. Well, it looks like a terribly low frame rate game where you're playing as a helicopter shooting in some generic asset flip 3D environments. Yeah. Maybe there's more you do than just helicopters, but maybe you drive all kinds of military vehicles. It's discounted to $2.69, and it does not interest me at all. TechRaptor has an article. Good Game Studios is promoting Olga Savashchuk and Philip Nust to CEO and CPO. We'll do a web peek here so you can just see the name. Oleg Savashchuk, Philip Nust, CEO, CPO. Let's see. Stillfront Group, a team of independent creators, publishers and distributors of digital games, announced that their 2 employees will take new positions, blah blah blah. What is Good Game Group made?
Mind if I roll need?
Stillfront, which apparently is the parent company, is responsible for all sorts of games across multiple platforms, most notably in their collaboration with EA that led to titles like Unravel and its sequel Unravel 2, as Coldwater is a big part of the group. So their biggest games, their most recognized games, are 2 little indie games that were, I believe, PlayStation exclusives. And while I don't think there's anything really wrong with the game Unravel or Unravel 2, it has a very unique gameplay style that that doesn't really easily translate into other kinds of gameplays. The best it translates to is it shows an ability to develop a decent 2.5D platformer. Or 2D platformer. That's kind of all Unravel would say. Unravel as a series is very, very avant-garde, perhaps if I'm using that phrase correctly. So it's like the weird side piece of art you do to make your artistic people happy. It's not a company it shouldn't be a company defining indication of quality. Generally speaking, like you would want, say, well, I'm watching somebody play WarioWare Shake It right now, which is kind of an unknown, forgotten game for the Wii, I think, and that certainly isn't the game that's going to show what Nintendo can do. What's going to show what Nintendo can do is Mario Odyssey or Zelda Breath of the Wild. Even Splatoon really isn't a good example of what Nintendo is normally comfortable making. Metroid Prime is another great example of that. It's like, that's not really what Nintendo usually does. Although I guess this is just a promotion. It's not like they announced that they're seeking new funding.
I'm unstable.
So TechRaptor has this article, and the way I read it is kind of different from the way it seems to be reported now. So maybe there was some more clarity added to this at some point. But Tencent put out these streaming rules for Chinese gamers, and we're gonna go over all the rules. And then it was in that lost footage on Monday. This was not because I lost the footage in any way, or if it was, then my computer is really, really well hacked. They announced these Chinese rules, streaming for Chinese gamers rules, and it didn't seem like it really only applied to people in China, or people who are Chinese citizens, or people whatsoever having anything to do with it. So this article goes, the list of 12 regulations all but cement Tencent's role in directing the Chinese gaming policy. The prohibitions are as follows. And after reading this, I immediately blacklisted any directly made Tencent games on Steam, and I'll just never play any of them. There's complaints that Epic, Tencent owns parts of Activision Blizzard. They're an investor in that. They are investors in the Epic Store also. I'm not sure in each of those individual cases where Tencent has a minority investment or even a majority investment in a lot of companies, how much information or power that really gives Tencent. So it may be justifiable that you don't want to do any business with a company that Tencent's invested in, but that might be almost all the video game companies. And there have definitely been claims that Tencent was part of the Chinese government and a direct arm of enforcing Chinese governmental policy and goals, and And this certainly kind of guarantees that to be true. I don't know how you take it any other way. Either that's what happened, or Tencent was forced to institute these rules because they weren't ever going to get a game approved again in China, and so they had their backs against the walls. And in the last footage, I violated all of these policies just on principle, so I think we'll probably end this episode doing the same. So let's just sit here for a second. The first of the prohibitions are violations of China's social values, including sensitive topics such as politics, ethnicity, and religion. Excuse me, sorry. So we can't talk about topics such as how China is a dictatorship and how the president is now trying to be the new emperor and he changed the laws so he can be the president forever. We can't talk about ethnicity such as how they are oppressing people in China is oppressing people in Tibet and Muslims and sending Muslims basically into concentration camps, and oppressing pretty much everybody else, including other Asian countries that they claim to be their own. And we can't talk about religion, how we talk about how they are oppressing Muslims and Tibetans for their religion also. The second prohibition is promoting or publishing content that violates China's social values, including but not limited to pornography, gambling, and terrorism. I can get very behind promoting pornography and gambling, and terrorism is a buzzword. Like, a lot of times one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. So, like, depending on the nuance there, I might even support somebody who is called a terrorist under other things. They would have called the people who signed the Declaration of Independence terrorists. They almost certainly did back in the day. The next thing that's prohibited is behavior that damages the Tencent Games brand directly or indirectly, which the Tencent really is taking this ridiculous policy here that streamers are somehow supposed to be advertisers and representative of Tencent as a company, and thus we can't put their company in a bad light. That's not what streamers are. We're critics, we're news reporters. We're not a wing of your advertising department, or at least we shouldn't be. Distributing false information to others or pretending to be an official Tencent representative. False information might be a fake news thing where you might be saying something that is totally true or that's controversial, that it's unproven, and maybe they'll just call it false. I imagine if you said the Tiananmen Square massacre occurred, Tencent might very well say that that is false information. Distributing vulgar or indecent information, again, very nuanced. Distributing or promoting game cheat software or virus software. You know, there's potential ways that I'm cool with you distributing game cheat software, particularly if it's a single player game, and if you're doing it for a scientific reason and you're making example viruses and you're being very, very careful to not let it come out to the wrong people, that I don't really find a problem with even making scientific virus software for science. Engaging in excessive violence in-game or in the real world. So you can't be a streamer and apparently engage in excessive violence. So no MMA fighters can play Tencent games and stream them, apparently. And also you can't be excessively violent in games where Tencent would have had to have programmed it and made it so you could be excessively violent. Violating the privacy of other users with or without permission. The with there is a big question mark. how are you violating somebody's privacy if they specifically want you and gave you permission to mention them or talk about them. Failure to abide by the rules of the contract signed by third parties, i.e. other streaming platforms. So this is very nuanced, the way this is being said too. Of course, this is all translated from Chinese, so it could be slightly construed even differently than that. But I don't even know if that means I have to abide by contracts that Tencent signs with third parties, or if I have to abide by every contract I sign, even if it has nothing to do with streaming a Tencent game. Yeah. Copyright infringement of game developers or other content creators. I can't really complain too much about them saying that you shouldn't copyright infringement, but it's really not their business, frankly. And knowing China, they engage in non-stop copyright infringement, and I'm almost fairly certain Tencent has been caught a few times in engaging in copyright infringement. Any content that has negative social impact, so they're really making it blanket. You can't say anything negative at all, basically, because if you say it's a gloomy day and somebody hears that, wouldn't that have negative social impact? Any actions that do not comply with the current laws and regulations. So in case the first 11 of these weren't strict enough and nuanced enough that they could say, if you're streaming and we don't like it, we won't let you stream, which you really don't need a license to stream, not in the United States, and certainly as a United States streamer I don't have to follow any of these laws or these rules, because my streaming of videos, in my opinion, is fair use, and I don't need a license and written permission to stream their games. Good news is Tencent's games on Steam, there's only 2 of them, and they're both garbage for the most part, so it's not even close. But this does set a big precedent where these rules might very well might get copied over to games and streamers outside of China, and then this is just another example of China trying to enforce its worldview, its policy, its strict authoritarian governmenting style on the rest of the world. Let's see, the Tencent talks about a 19-year-old streamer named Hashi, H-A-I-S-H-I, incurred a massive fine for breaking his contract with one service in favor of another. Despite reporting revenue of $1.5 million US in under a year, Hashi opted to leave the streaming platform Huya, H-U-Y-A, in favor of rival service Douyu, D-O-U-Y-U. Huya took offense and challenged Hashi in court, won a field pair, and $7 million later, Tencent is hoping to curb any further poaching. So Tencent apparently owns Huya, and they lost the case against Hashi. They appealed and lost the appeal, and they've spent $7 million to try and win this case. The bottom part of this says, despite the restrictions, it's worth noting that these restrictions only apply to Chinese streamers, not streamers of games owned by Tencent. That is to say, your favorite League of Legends or Dungeon Fighter Online streamer is exempt, provided they're outside of China, with few Chinese streamers opting to broadcast on Twitch.tv over the large domestic options. Many Westerners may not see the effect of these rules, and it is extremely unlikely the company would feel compelled to make them apply worldwide. I don't think it's extremely unlikely. I think this is a first step, and I think easily in 5, 10, 15 years, these exact similar rules will come out for everybody. Particularly if Tencent is allowed to grow as a company and grow in its influence. And inherently, this is a case where, because the Chinese government is so authoritative and such a dictatorship, that their companies act authoritative and a dictatorship, so we can't really trust any of their companies in any form whatsoever. We can't, as the world, this isn't just US versus China, this is as the world, who any person in the world who is against tyranny, any person who is for free speech, anyone who is against being controlled, has to, in the back of their mind, remember, we can't let any Chinese company anywhere gain any power, any influence in the world. They literally cannot and should not be part of the world economy, economy of ideas, economy of money, economy of influence, until China is no longer authoritative, no longer a dictatorship. And I know China will come back and say they're a democracy, blah blah blah. Not true. I don't believe it. Your own people don't believe it. They just are too afraid and too under your thumb to say it out loud. A one communist party democracy is just another way to say dictatorship. Particularly when you have the same president set up to be president for the rest of his life. And the same would go for Russia too. And several other countries. So it's been about an hour. This is a good place to break it up. And then I'll move over to the European account. We've got a lot more to talk about, and actually there's another Chinese story to talk about in particular, but I think most of my rant will stay here with this. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And when you subscribe, please click the notification bell. If you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.